Hi, this is Bird from Bird's SVGs, and in this video I'll show you all of the stencils from the Flowers on Frames Stencil SVG collection, and I'll just talk you through how to put the storage envelope together first. So I've folded the liner with the patterned side inside the fold, and then I'm folding along all of the 4 score lines on my envelope, and then I'm just adding some glue to the bottom 2 edges of these side flaps. And then I'll flip up the bottom flap to close the envelope before adding my liner. If you cut all of your 9 stencils to the size provided, which is 6 inches, all 9 of them will actually fit inside this storage envelope. But of course you can cut your stencils any size you like. You may have a problem if you try and go too small, but you can certainly go as large as you like. Okay, so I've just slid my liner in, and I'm making sure that it's central to the envelope before I add some glue, just to these top edges here, and that's all that it needs to actually hold that in. So I'm just flipping it over, making sure that I've got an even border around the edge of that liner there, and then that's the storage envelope done. And you'll see that there's a like a slot closure there for the tip of your envelope flap to tuck into, so you can go in and out of your storage envelope as often as you need to get to your stencils. These are the 9 different designs that you get within the collection, and there's a couple of patterns, and then there's a range of frames. So I'll just show you them one by one in the flesh, as it were. I'll do my best to tip them in the light so you can see them. This is the square flower frame, and then this is the next one's the first of the circle flower frames. And here's another flower circle frame. This is similar to the one on the front of the storage envelope. This one's got 2 borders on there, so you can use it as it is and then maybe run a sentiment across the middle, or you could just use one end as a border on its own. Here's another variation of the circle frames. And here we have 2 rose patterns. So this is a rose circle frame. And then we've got an all over rose pattern, a repeating pattern here. And I will actually be doing a card with this towards the end of the video. And then we've got some daisy patterns. So we've got a circle frame. And the last of the 9 is an all over daisy design. So those are the 9 different stencils that you get within the kit. Each stencil is actually 5.5 inches at the widest point, but they're set inside a 6-inch stencil. So they will cover the front of a 6x6 card. This is the card I'm going to make. I'm just going to show you how I got that effect with the stencil. So I took the rose pattern stencil, and it actually took up some of the repositionable sticky from my cutting pad when I cut it. So that was enough for it to hold on to my cardstock. But I've added some washi tape around the edges just to hold it in place, because I'll be inking and I don't want any of the ink to seep underneath the lines. I want them to be nice and crisp. Because it's got repositionable adhesive on the back, that probably would have been enough to hold it in place. I'm probably adding a little bit too much here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 3 different colours of distress ink. And I picked spun sugar as my lightest. I picked worn lipstick as my middle colour. And I used a tiny bit of festive berries for the very middle of the roses. So here what I did was I've taken some spun sugar, and I'm adding that to the whole of the piece of card. That's my lightest colour. So as I was putting it on, I was wondering, is it enough colour? Is it going to show? But of course, when you get the reveal, when you take the stencil off, you realise that actually it doesn't take very much ink to make quite an impact with a stencil. So I'm doing an inking technique in this video, but there is another video on the website that has about 7, I believe, different techniques that I've done, including inking, dry embossing, using different texture pastes and glitter pastes, and even glitter. So, you know, you might want to check that out for some extra ideas. So at this point I've moved on to my second colour, which is Worn Lipstick. And what I'm doing, because I'm using the more traditional rectangle style of blending tools, I'm just dipping a corner into my ink pad, a corner of my phone into my ink pad, and then adding the colour to the centre part of the rose. I'll try not to make it too small of an area because I know I have a third colour coming. So I'm just trying to add some colour to each one. Like I say, just dipping the corner of my foam into the ink pad each time. And I'm using a slightly coated cardstock for this. I've tried some inking techniques with some watercolour card, and I found that it was actually a bit too absorbent, and it absorbed a bit too much ink, and it did bleed a little bit under my stencil, so whether that was me doing something wrong. But I found using a stamping card actually worked very well. Okay, so I'm going to be moving on to my third colour here, which is Festive Berries. And here I'm trying to dip an even smaller area of the corner of my blending tool into my ink pad, and just adding this darker colour, it's quite a strong colour, just to the very centremost area of the of each rose. Hopefully make it look a little bit more realistic, and certainly more interesting anyway. Give it a little bit of dimension. And then what I did for my final card, because you'll see the reveal here in a moment, is I actually cut this. Oh, there's the cat passing by. I actually cut this card, this piece of card down to a traditional standard size card, and just added some vellum and a sentiment, and kept it pretty simple. But I think because you've put all the effort into the background, you know, you want that to shine. And here you have the reveal, and there you are. And I'll show you again the final card. And remember, for more ideas, there's that stencil technique video on the website.